Happy Friday. This is the No Tracers podcast. If you're an urban explorer or if you're trying to get into the art and the hobby and the sport of urban exploring, check out this show. This is the one for you. This is No Tracers. Welcome to No Tracers, the podcast where I take you on an adventure through the hidden gems and forgotten corners of the world. From abandoned buildings and tunnels to rooftop views and street art, join me as we uncover the secrets of the urban landscape. With interviews from experienced explorers, tips and tricks for navigating the urban terrain, and thrilling first-hand accounts of their explorations. Get ready to discover the world like never before. Come explore with us. But remember, leave no trace. So, happy Friday. Hope you are gearing up for a weekend of urban exploring. If you're just at home this weekend, that's okay too. Edit some photos, make some videos, and enjoy this conversation. This week on the podcast, I'm speaking with Bloodrocutioner. You can find him on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, all the places. He explores. He does a little bit of gaming as well. He's trying to get back into more gaming. So if you're into that kind of stuff, definitely check out his links down in the description. Before we get into this episode, just a couple of things. First of all, thank you for tuning in this week. Very excited for this episode. It's a great one. We have a really cool conversation. And if you do like it, please leave a rating and feedback on the podcast. It helps us grow. It helps us find more listeners to enjoy this show, just like you're going to. And if you want to support what I do, there are a few ways to do so. There are some sponsors down in the description. And there are links to my merch store, which has hats, beanies, backpacks, duffel bags, t-shirts, patches, all kinds of cool stuff on there. And 2 photography books that I've made. Definitely go check that out. notracers.com/shop. You can also see a gang of my photography and video work in abandoned places at notracers.com. Go over there and enjoy that, and subscribe to the newsletter if you want to. But without further ado, let's jump into this episode. Bloodrocutioner, welcome to the podcast. Please introduce yourself and how long you've been exploring to the No Tracers audience.
Well, my name is Bloodrocutioner. I go by that, or my real name is Chris. Also Blood Explorers on TikTok. But Bloodrocutioner works, Blood, Chris, what have you. Either way, that's me. And I've been I've been exploring for about, I want to say 3 years now. It was like right before COVID shut everything down. So yeah, about 3 years. And yeah, been going strong ever since.
Amazing. So you're what we call a COVID explorer because, I think that
Yeah,
time got a new wave of people came into the hobby.
yeah, I think I started a little bit before,
Mm.
because I vaguely remember, um, I worked at a restaurant, and yeah, I vaguely remember like the whole mask thing wasn't a thing, so it was a little bit before COVID. So I think I missed that
Got it.
window of being a COVID explorer.
Amazing. So what got you into exploring in the first place? Like what made you kind of catch the bug? What made you how'd you hear about urban exploring? All that stuff.
So when I was little, I've always been fascinated with like abandoned places. I think I was about 9 years old. I remember we would always go past this big building. I used to live in Ohio, and then it became abandoned, and then I found out it was a hospital. I'm like, how does a hospital go abandoned? And like here I am, like, um, you know, like some years later, and I find exploring with Josh and then the proper people and Steve Ronan. I find all of them. I'm like, wait, people actually explore abandoned places, and I was like, that's the most coolest thing I've ever heard. And from that point on, I kind of became like a huge like fan of it, like just seeing these places. And then I didn't really think about going in them myself until recently. I've always liked photography, Even when I was like a little kid, I would take like disposable cameras when I was like 7 and just use them and take them to the zoo. And but that's how I pretty much came about to exploring. It was just pretty much just those two passions of just seeing abandoned places and then just like taking photos. And yeah, I pretty much fired up from there.
Nice. So, what was your first exploration? What was the first building you went into?
It was probably my most sketchy one. So
Okay.
my buddy, I met him at my old job. We worked together for about 3 4 years, and one day after work, because it was a restaurant, we closed like late. One day after work, I was like, dude, you want to go explore an abandoned hotel? He's like, all right, cool. So this was in kind of like a rough neighborhood. We pretty much got there. We parked the car. And rule number one that I learned that night, always check around for entrances. Don't go for the closest thing, because we ended up jumping a fence and almost face planting onto the other side. It was just hilarious. But we went in there, we got kind of spooked, and we ended up going back the next day. And yeah, it was just the most sketchy thing, because we found like needle, like it wasn't like apparent what or they were doing there, but it looked as if like it was just people up to no good squatting there and whatnot. And I actually upload this video on YouTube because like it was like a thing where I wanted to go explore abandoned places, but I didn't just want to take photos, I wanted to take video as well. So we were up on the second floor, and we were kind of just like looking around, and all of a sudden we start hearing music coming at us from like the corner of the building. We couldn't see who it was, so we just like started running. Like we got out of there, and it was just crazy. But luckily, ever since then, I don't think we've had anything that sketchy.
Gotcha. So, what made you so after that experience, like, were you kind of spooked from exploring again, or were you just like, I got to go do this some more?
No, I immediately thought to myself, I have to do this more. I have to find more places to do this. And I eventually just fired up Google Earth and started looking at different ghost towns like
Mm,
throughout Florida. And I ended up locating it was like a abandoned trailer, um, like deep in some woods. Like the road was like non existent. And we ended up exploring that. And then I found it was like a pink, like I guess it used to be like a horse ranch or something, and they turned it into a family home.
mm.
I also found that like the same day. So like a few weeks later, we found ourselves like doing more explores, like more and more and more. And yeah, it was the adrenaline rush that kind of was like, yeah, I want to do this more. Like I wasn't sketched out at all about the danger. um it was more so I wanted to experience more of the unknown and just see things that normal people do not see in their lifetime, pretty much.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of why we do this because we know that very few people, I mean, the community's big, but like in comparison to the world, this is a very niche thing that not a lot of people do. A lot of
Oh
people
yeah.
talk about it, a lot of people know about it, and a lot of people are like, "Wow, I wish I could do that," but they don't. And I think it takes a very interesting type of person to go into these buildings. And for you, can you talk about like the mentality of an urban explorer? What makes you continue to go back to these places? Is it just the adrenaline? Is it, the decay? Like what for you makes you keep going back?
It's funny because I explained to everyone what it kind of is. Like when I first told my parents about it, like it's like, so do you go into places and look for ghosts? It's like, no, that's not it. But I did have like sort of a weird stage where I was like fascinated with the paranormal and
Sure.
stuff, and I feel like the state of mind of just like urban explorer, it really differs from person to person. It's not really the sense of adrenaline that keeps me coming back to doing it. It's more so just the history of some of these places is just insane. Recently, my buddy adventuring with Trevor, um, me and him found this. Well, he found this abandoned house, and it's funny because we're like a super good team. Like like he finds locations, I do the research, and he's like, "Oh man, that's crazy! You found that." And it's like you find so much history at like some of the most unexpected places, and it's like it. I don't know if it's a history to architecture, just like it's like a new mystery every
Mhm.
location you go to, and even some of the more well-known locations, like it's just it's mind-boggling just coming back years later after you go to a place and you just see how much the decay has set in, or unfortunately we have people that trash things, and
Right.
it's I so I really can't really speak any like on anyone when it comes to like mindset of an urban explorer. I think it just differs from person to person, but for me there are so many things that keep me doing this, and like I love sharing other people's like photos and work, and it honestly captivates me just seeing the many different corners of the world when it comes to urban exploring and just places in general.
Yeah, it really is a special thing, and I'm a documentary filmmaker at heart, and so just like every person has a story, I feel like every location, every building has its own
Hmm.
story, and like some of those stories speak to you when you're inside, like just through like whether it's the energy or the architecture or whatever it may be. Even sometimes like the graffiti inside can tell a story. I I had a explorer on recently, and he talked about this amazing building that was like graffitied on the inside and outside, and it was this story about like the world that's on fire, like the world is burning kind of thing, and it,
Hmm.
it it was like a story all through this abandoned building, and it's stuff like that that is really fascinating to me, that people make art at these places. And whether you agree with graffiti or not, I know that that's a controversial subject in
Yeah.
itself
Yeah.
within the community, but sometimes if it's beautiful, like it
Yeah.
it, it is a special thing.
It really is a beautiful thing, like, as long as it's not just, like, rocket ships
And
and stuff
dicks.
like that. Yeah. Yeah, that's my code name,
Oh
my
my
my YouTube
god.
my YouTube friendly name
Yes.
for
Yep.
the dick drawings, like,
Yep.
but yeah, no, the graffiti can definitely tell a story, and that's another thing that I don't normally, like, go on about, like, graffiti, but I have seen some pieces in some areas where it's like, "Wow, that's amazing." I can respect
Mhm.
that. Took probably a lot of time to do that.
Yeah. And I mean, when I explore, I obviously have like that adrenaline of like, "Oh my god, how long can we stay in here until we get caught?" kind of
Mhm.
thing. And like then you look at some of these like intricate murals and you're like, "They were probably here for like 8 hours," like
Yeah.
painting this mural with like no problems. So like I can
Yeah.
probably chill at this place. But do you have a certain type of building that you prefer exploring?
Oh, man, I think I've been really set on time capsules. Just the places where it's like the family just got up and left and everything's just still there. Um, yeah, I have yet to explore a hospital. I've been really wanting to do that. Those are few to none here in Florida.
Right.
But I think time capsules. Ooh, excuse me. Time capsules really do it for me. Even if it's just like a building with really old architecture, Like there's a few luxury resorts
Mhm.
here in Florida, and that architecture is just amazing. I just love the 1920s Spanish Mediterranean
Mm.
revival style. Like it's really cool to me.
Yeah, and I feel like they don't make buildings the same way. I mean, if you go into a more recently built abandoned building, it's already
Hmm.
falling apart compared
Yeah.
to the older like hospitals or asylums or you
It-
know, even like you're talking about resorts and things that were built back in the day. I feel like the care that went into creating those buildings was greater than it is now.
yeah.
Now they're just trying to throw stuff up, all the
Yeah,
time. Like,
it's funny that you mentioned that because recently I explored some. It's like a. I was actually working on the video before we started this, but the um the place is a abandoned. It's like a subdivision of just modern mansions, and they're built in like early 2000s. And it's funny you mentioned the whole contrast of, the old architecture and that kind of architecture. Even though I found that it was like really kind of not so striking to the eye, it still had quite a bit of history behind it, which was pretty interesting to me.
man, it's so fascinating all these like different buildings that we get to see, and I wish that I went to Portugal a few years ago, and I'll never forget the building. It was a restaurant that was like had a 360-degree panorama, and it was up on this like really
Hmm.
tall hill or like mountain or whatever, and it overlooked the entire city. And
Wow.
I thought to myself, like, I looked up the place and the architect that built it, and I was like, "Man, I wish I could bring that architect here now and, like, interview him and ask him, like, 'What do you think of this building now that it's decaying?' Like,
Oh
you
man.
built this, and now it's just, like, being taken
That
back by nature." It's so crazy to me, and,
That's
like
a very, not to cut you off,
no,
but
go
that
ahead.
is a very interesting perspective.
Right?
Like, I never thought of like what would the artist or the designer feel looking at this building
Yeah.
now. Like, I think I felt that way about a few homes where it was like, I wonder what the people would have felt, looking at their home now
Yeah.
in contrast to when they were watching their home being built. Like that's a really interesting perspective that you kind of shedded onto me. I'm like, wow, that's, I'm gonna think about that a lot more now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, all the different types of places that I'm sure, you've been to and that I've been to and that the many people that listen to the show have been to, like, just like think about that next time you're in a building. Like, I wonder, like, who built this and like where are they? Where are they now? Like,
Yeah.
where are they? And like, what would they think of this? And I think the guy that built that restaurant, unfortunately passed away. So like, there's no way
Hmm.
that could happen. But like, it just, like that's always in the back of my mind when I'm exploring now is, like, I wonder what the architect would think of this place, but, for you, have you ever gotten permission to explore a place?
um not not necessarily, no. No, it's always just been one speed, and that's just go. Like, and if it's not doable, stake out, like go past during the night if you have any doubt of the place even being abandoned. Because here in Florida we have a lot of houses that look abandoned, but they're actually not. And eh,
That's the worst.
I've
That's
had
why
my
I don't do
fair.
houses, 'cause fuck that. Because like, someone's probably living there.
Yeah, I've had my fair share of close encounters. I'm like, "Ooh, I'm glad I didn't try and explore that house." But I have this whole system down where it's like, if I have any doubt in my mind, I'll go back like during night. I'll go
Yeah.
back like, 12 a.m. Like, I'll go past, like drive by or whatever, and see if there's any lights or anything like that. There's easy ways to like look up property records now, and
Sure.
just you can't be too careful when it comes to that. And that's what sucks about liking time capsule houses too much, because you you have to run that risk of, well, somebody could be living there, maybe not. Then you just go there the next day, and John's out there watering his plants outside his house that is falling apart.
Yep. Yeah. It's crazy. That's like a huge reason I kind of stay away from houses unless it's like
Hmm.
an abandoned mansion. I feel like you can kind of tell
Yeah.
then if it's actually abandoned, or if like the door's off the hinges, like obvious signs that nobody's there. But yeah, houses kind of sketch me out because of that reason. Because like no matter how dilapidated the house, if you're in southern
Hmm.
Alabama, there's a good chance
Oh,
somebody's in that house living.
yep, yep. That's yeah, we had a house where it was adventuring with Trevor and I. It was the house I mentioned earlier.
Mhm.
We went in there, and it was pretty sketchy. Like the first thing we see when we go through the sliding glass back door, like it was cracked open, so we knew that it was definitely like abandoned.
Mhm.
But we went in there, and there was just a blanket covering the doorway, and we just hear beeping, and here we find out that it was the high temperature alarm for the refrigerator. And the electricity was still on. And
Wow.
and yeah, and that whole home had tons of history. I guess the guy was a Hanshi karate master, 10th degree, from Japan, and
Wow.
he brought like karate to America, like
No
at least in
way.
Florida. Yeah, and he hosted like events in like Central Europe. He Camp Kumite he hosted. I think he won like second place in like 94 or 98.
Wow.
And yeah, the guy, he was a very like prominent figure in that region of the world, and then he brought it over here, in every country like he went to, and he brought pretty much knowledge of that side of the world to here, and it was just crazy uncovering all that history on that one location that we honestly were about to just be like, you know what, this is too sketchy, let's go.
That's crazy, dude. Wow. So I started this thing with the podcast. At the end of the show, I ask my guests um what they would ask the next guest. It's just a way
Hmm,
to like kind of get people to interact with each other. So I'm going to skip around a little bit here just so I can ask this question because I feel like it's relevant now. So
okay.
Zach Visuals asks, where do you draw the line on risk?
um so what I do is I pretty much go with my gut. Like there's always that sort of feeling in your stomach where it's like, okay, well, I don't have a great feeling about this at all. Like, and it usually comes up before you even get into the location. And I feel like with risk, if you're talking about going into the place, if you feel like it's too risky, um, go with your gut. If you feel like you need more time to actually think about your plan to get into the place, if there is no like visible way of getting into it, think over the plan. What I like to do is I use my drone. My drone helps me out so many times. It gives me a bit of confidence too. Like it really alleviates the pressure of risk. Just stake out the location as much as you can before, know your ins and outs of the place before you go in.
Definitely. I would agree with that completely. So can you share with us your most creative entrance into a place?
Oh man. It's definitely not the jumping the fence and almost falling on my face. um let's see here. Oh man, like most places I've been to. Okay, so there has been a couple. I'm a very I'm a short person. I'm like 5'4", five
Okay.
five, something like that. So as you can imagine, I have trouble reaching things. I'm vertically challenged. I
Yes.
cannot, I don't have that reach. There's been a couple times where I'm just like, okay, how do I get in here? And then I have to like look around and scavenge something to stand on,
Yep.
or find a completely different way. That's happened a couple times. Um, but yeah, that's probably my most creative. I have to like play Tetris with things just to get into some areas.
Yep. We're climbing up pipes and we're like,
Yeah.
finding chairs and I'm 5'3", so I have the same problem
Yep.
getting into
Yep.
places. So
Yeah,
I
that's
do.
that's the whole pipe thing. You got Mario your way
Yeah,
or Donkey Kong your way up, and
exactly.
uh
It's a nightmare, but hey, we do it because
mhm,
it's what we love.
definitely.
So how many pins would you say are on your map?
I want to say about 40 something.
Okay,
Um and there are a few that I haven't checked out, but to be fair, I only explore in Florida as of now.
sure,
Um it's very hard to get out and explore when you work full time, but I do make the time and get out to places whenever. But yeah, I want to say 40 active pins. There's a little bit more if you count like the demolished
sure.
locations. Um, but yeah, like I don't really record every location. Um, I've kind of gotten like very, very picky with like locations. It's like if there's nothing there, then it kind of makes it hard to turn it into a video.
Yeah, I agree, like I
Yeah,
have the same kind of thing. Like if there's not a whole lot going on there, like it's not like what's the point because I still love exploring
yeah,
regardless, but
exactly.
and I'll still explore, but I mean, of course we want to share that. I think that's a big part of
Yeah.
like especially as, YouTubers, I think it's a kind of a innate behavior that we
Hmm.
want to, film that. I mean, I used to do daily videos. I did 1,000 days in a row. I was living
Oof.
overseas and traveling and doing all these things and touring with bands and blah blah blah.
Hmm.
So I was like, this is pretty interesting. I should probably document this and share it with everybody. And so it's like built into me to want to film and document everything now. So I totally get what you're saying. Like,
Yeah, that's exactly, and I always have this struggle in the back of my mind. Like I'll be filming, and then it's like I want to take photos, and it's like,
yeah,
ooh, look at that. Like if I wait like 10 more minutes, the sun won't be in that one little
yep,
spot for me to get this so I just like I stop recording, take a picture, and like it like line up the shot, and then sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't, but hey,
hmm
it's like you might as well try it and then get back to recording like nothing happened.
Yep, yep. I wish there were 2 of me so I could do both at the
Yep.
same time. It's very frustrating, but I totally understand what you're saying. Do you prefer to explore alone or with people?
Hmm. um that is a very good question because uh I have tried and explore places alone. I feel like if you've been to the spot, if you know that nobody's gonna be hanging out, causing any trouble at the spot, I feel like sometimes the lone explorers, they hit differently.
Yeah.
It gives you a lot of time to just recollect, and just being there, listening to like the water drip from the
Mm,
ceilings and just echo through the building, or you hear the wind just howling through the pillars of the building. Sometimes it creates a peace of mind that like nothing can be matched. Like there's this abandoned mansion like over by the ocean, and it's right on the beach, and I remember sitting there and just like listening to the waves, and
mm,
I'm just like, man, this is great. But for the most part, I always try and bring my best buddy Eric, or I just hit up one of my other homies, and yeah, I just feel like when it comes to exploring new places, definitely better to have somebody with you because you never know what the heck is gonna happen or who's in there or
Yep. Yeah,
whatnot.
it is it definitely hits different. Like that's a good way of putting it. You know,
Hmm.
like I was in Australia on tour with one of the bands I work for last year, and I can't remember when it was, but I had this guy on. His username is Jim's Urbex. He lives in Adelaide, Australia. And
Okay.
we were in Adelaide and we had a day off. We were there for 2 days and one day was a day off. And so I hit him up and I was like, dude, I would love to go explore with you and like meet up because obviously like I when am I gonna go back to Australia, right? So, and he does like drains and all kinds of stuff. So I hit him
Yeah.
up and it was a public holiday and he had already had plans with family or whatever, but he sent me pins to some of his spots and he was like, "Go, just go explore. Like you'll be fine." And I was like, mm, okay, I'm in a foreign country. Like, I don't really know how it goes here in Australia, you know. But one of the spots was a shopping mall, and it was like 3 blocks away from my hotel,
Oh,
like walking
nice.
distance. So I was like, okay, I have to go check this out. So I walk over, and I'm like, surely the door isn't open. Surely this
Hmm.
is going to be a mission. And I walk down an alley and I like look at the door and I'm like, no freaking way. The deadbolt is like sticking out of the door, but the door has been like pried open. And I was
Wow.
like, there's no way this is open. So I just like slowly pull the door open and it's like, dude, I had to go in. I couldn't not, you know? So it was amazing, like walking around in silence with like, without
Hmm.
having like other people's footsteps inside, you know, and other
Yeah.
people talking and doing their thing and like having conversations, you know, it was cool to like you said, like recollect and reflect on like what's going on and just kind of take in the ambience of the place. And it was cool because it was like right in the middle of the city center. So I could like hear people walking outside, like
Hmm.
right outside the walls. And I was like, this is wild. Like this place used to be a
Yeah.
mall here. And now it's just like, who would know? Like if you didn't know it was there, you would have no idea. You know what I
So
mean? Like,
yeah, so you have that ominous like
yeah.
there's those people out there, there's
Yeah. Yeah.
footsteps, and then you're
Yep.
just inside chilling and just
Yeah.
taking all the that's amazing.
It was
It's
crazy.
yeah. See, that's like the ultimatum. It's like I drive to locations, I'm, like, just blasting metal, like, I'm just,
Right.
like, listening to music, like, jamming out, and then I get to a location, it's like, if I'm by myself, I'm just, like, chilling there, or, like, if
Yeah.
I'm with somebody, I'm just taking photos, and then, like, on the way home, it's just jamming out again, it's
Yep.
like
Yep.
it's that duality of just, like, I wanna listen to my music and relax, but then I wanna go to these places, take photos, relax, and just listen, like, so great.
It's so great, and, like, the buildings speak, you know, like, the wind whistling through, like,
Mhm.
a
Yep.
corridor or, like, a door, like, flying open because of the wind, you know, like, these buildings have voices, and they speak to us, and I think that's another, like, really special thing about this
Man-made
hobby.
wind chimes.
Yeah, man, it's amazing, it's amazing. If you could live in one abandoned place you've explored for an entire week, which place would it be?
Mm. Wow, that's a tough one. Um, man, I think I would love to just, like I think I would just love to live in, there was, I was gonna say a theme park that was here that's not here anymore, but, I don't think I could deal with people, like, going through the place I live
Yeah,
all week.
yeah,
I think the Karate Master house, like, I think I would live there for a week because, honestly, the beach mansion is really nice, like, I would love that so much, but I feel like, you know, this time of year the summer, like, the beaches are always packed, so it's like,
yeah,
and then hurricanes,
yeah.
Florida, like, you might not be in the house, you might not wake up in the house,
That's true.
after a hurricane,
That's so true.
but, yeah, I think the abandoned Karate Master's house would be amazing because, like, there's just so much there, and every time I've gone there, like, I've found something new, like, just going through everything like in the house. Like I'll find a different way to photograph something, or I'll find a different like booklet of photos or information on the place. Like um and just like the way it is all just laid out, it was such a nice home at one point in time. And it's just like, man, and it's probably up there with one of my favorite places that I've explored.
Yeah. Nice. So exploring with nomads question is, do you have any good luck charms like that you bring with you to go
Oh
exploring?
man, that
When he asked that, I
that's
was like, damn, that's a good question.
that is a really good question. I mean, I really love, as dumb as it sounds, I really love my car. I got
Okay.
like good luck charms in it.
Okay.
Um, like I got like a few like little like things hanging from the mirror.
Mm,
I love video games, so like I got like a Kirby figurine hanging
nice.
from the mirror, and then I got like Demon Slayer. I got a Zenitsu figure hanging from it. As far as good luck charms go, I think my camera is my good luck charm.
Sure.
That thing has been through so much in just the short like 3.5, almost 4 years. So I mean, my camera, and I I want to say my like, yeah, just my camera. Like I always like keep it on me. As
Sure.
weird as that sounds, it's kind of like a security blanket for
Yeah, yeah.
me.
I feel you. I totally agree. If I don't have my camera with me when I go somewhere, I feel like I'm naked. Like,
Yeah,
I feel, like,
yeah.
uncomfortable. I'm like, "But what if something happens and I need to take a photo?"
Yeah, exactly. Or, somebody comes in and they start giving me trouble. I'm gonna
Yeah.
record this because
Yeah.
it might be my last moments.
Yep, exactly, exactly. So, what do you hope for the future of urban exploring?
Oh man. It's funny because I was talking to somebody about about how much places are catching on fire nowadays.
Dude.
And I just really hope that um people just learn more respect for places. And um it sucks because I explored a place 2 weeks ago, and it's a very well known location here in Florida. And about a week and a half before I got there, I guess it burned, um,
Yeah.
like the atrium, and the whole atrium was just collapsed. Um, and yeah, and there was like scrappers there, and like I really just hope, in short, people just learn to respect places. And I mean, who's to say, the fires aren't caused by, other things. But my money is on just, people just being people and vandalizing and
Yeah.
destroying stuff, and just be more respectful. Come on.
I agree. I agree.
um
Um,
but yeah, that's pretty much it. Just be more respectful, and be careful who you give your locations out to.
seriously. Seriously. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. So what is something you know now that you wish you knew when you started exploring?
um I think it's just I think when I first started, I was too focused on filming. And I really wish like I knew more about my camera back then, like, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like that's it, like, because I look at these locations I've been to, and Florida, it's like you have to always drive like two
Yeah,
three
no kidding.
hours and like some of the best locations I had to drive like 3-4 hours. And like, looking back, I'm just like, man, I really wish I would have just took more time and worked on my photos, as well as how I film things.
Mm,
Um, there's been instances where I'm like I catch myself like rewatching some of my old videos. I'm like, hmm, because I'm just like, man, I really should have took my time more. I should
Yeah.
have lined up this shot a little bit better. I should have did this or that. And same thing with like utilizing like your equipment better, just in general, utilizing equipment like your drone, like it's because I always like film places. I'm like, man, I should have just got drone shots as
Yeah.
well. Like,
Yeah.
so then I'll find myself like driving an hour and a half to get the shots for the drone and then driving back.
Right.
Like just utilizing my what I have better. Like I really wish I would like have done that more in the past.
Yeah, I agree. I was looking back at some footage today and I was like, this sucks. Like, I could have done so much better if I just like took the time to like focus on it, more. But yeah, I mean, I totally get that. Do you have a question that you'd like to ask the next guest?
um let's see. Um, I think it would be this. I was actually thinking this earlier. Is there any other hobby that you tied in with urban exploring that kind of influences your content or your shots in any way?
Interesting. So what would your answer be?
Um, as I mentioned before, I love my metal music. I
Sure.
love my video games. I always try and um I always try to maintain a balance of like I think when I first started out I tried aiming for the all my shots to like have like a kind of Last of Us sort of
Oh,
vibe.
yeah.
Like I wanted that post apocalyptic like vibe with my photos. Like I want to see the trees just like growing through the house and
Yeah.
just the vines like creeping through the window and just I want to see all that like and like I like my dark moody shots, but I like my shots where it's like the sky is like very vibrant, but
Mm.
you have this like dark place like right there in the center of the photo. Um but yeah, I always try and incorporate like what kind of world would this be in if it was a video game? Like what what kind of dangers would you face if it was a video game?
Very cool.
But yeah, I always try and kind of keep that in the back of my head. Like I because like I used to stream video games all the time, and that's where my username kind of came from was
Sure.
um Death Clock, like Metalocalypse on Adult Swim. That was like one of my favorite shows, and they have a song called Bloodrocutioner, and my cousin was like, "How about Bloodrocutioner?" And it kind of stuck with me like for these whole years of just like streaming, and then I started doing all this, and um, I just refuse to change it. It's just it's something that's always been there.
So, one of my music projects, Matriarchs, we have a music video that is very like Metalocalypse
Oh,
inspired.
sweet.
It's called Dead Man. It's about like the undead coming out of the earth and decapitating the king. It's
Oh
super
wow,
sick. I'll send you a
that's
link to
really
it. It's
cool.
fucking awesome. But
Yeah,
uh
please do.
yeah, you'll dig it. It's like LA hardcore, but super fucking
Nice.
fun, and I think you'll vibe with it. But speaking of like video games and The Last of Us and urban exploration, how long would you survive in the zombie apocalypse?
Mm.
Knowing what you know about exploring abandoned places.
Oh man. This is another question I didn't really think about. Um, man, I I think uh I I I think I would last hmm, I'm not too sure because I'm like the most I'm not gonna toot my horn right now, but I am one of the most genuine and just like easygoing people. Like I feel like my kindness is always taken advantage of
Mm,
these days, and I don't know if it's just the people like nowadays or what, but um I would probably not last that long because I would probably end up trusting somebody too much,
Yep.
and then yeah, I would probably just, oh sure, I'll do that and never come back.
Yep. Hey, I love the honesty, that made for a really good answer. So thank you for coming on No Tracers. It's been really cool talking to you. If
Th-
people want to keep following you, where can they find you online? Drop your social media.
Okay, so Instagram is Bloodrocutioner. Um, I'm on TikTok as well. It's Blood Explorers. There's a underscore between those. Also on YouTube, Bloodrocutioner, and I'm on Twitch as well. It's also Bloodrocutioner, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I on Instagram I try and keep it between cars, my urban exploring, and just various photography. My YouTube is just urban exploring. I might do gaming stuff again, but right now it's just traveling, urban exploring, all that sort of stuff.
So that was my episode with Bloodrocutioner. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did, please let him know by giving him a follow. Check out his photography and his videos on YouTube. Like he said, he also Twitch streams and is trying to get back into doing more gaming, so go support him at that. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and feedback so that we can grow this show. If you want to come on No Tracers, you just hit me up on Instagram, no.tracers, or contact@notracers.com, and we'll get you on the show. Thank you guys for listening to another one. This has been my podcast, No Tracers. I'm your host, Kay, just the letter K, and I'll talk to you next Friday. Stay strong, keep enduring, go out, go explore something, and remember, leave no trace.